What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dissect That Film's Fresh Cuts, where we talk about the newest films in theaters or on streaming services. Today, we are talking about Barbarian, the 2022 film directed by Zach Kreger. In the beginning of this, you all know what we do. We do this spoiler free. I'm going to discuss my thoughts without spoiling the movie. And then, after a certain point, when I stop, when I run out of things to talk about spoiler free, we're going to talk about some spoiler stuff. But let's just start off with my initial reaction leaving the theater yesterday when I saw this movie was, what the fuck did I just watch? This movie was suspenseful, eerie, and then it just goes batshit crazy. Like it's you always have this creepy vibe throughout this movie where you're always feeling uncomfortable, even from the start. And then it progressively just keeps getting worse and worse until certain things happen, and then it just goes off the rails. And now we're on a roller coaster, and we're not strapped in fully. They didn't check our straps. So it's one of those. This is a movie where I am trying to figure out whether or not I really liked it, or am I feeling the same way that I felt after watching *Malignant* last year, which was I don't I don't know if I like this movie or if it was just too bonkers for me. Maybe it's just an initial first watch reaction. I mean, it's got great performances, don't get me wrong. I think it's got great effects. It's got the eeriness, and I think to be honest, I think it does what it's supposed to do. And I just maybe am just like, I don't know. I just put my hands up like, what did I what the fuck? That is literally the thought process that goes through my mind, still thinking back on it. This is definitely a movie I have to rewatch. I don't know if I'm gonna go see it in theaters again. Probably not. I'm probably gonna wait until it comes out on digital, or on physical, and watch it again and try to collect my thoughts. But I figure for a fresh cut, we're doing initial reactions. Where this is my initial thoughts. Coming out of this movie. It's it's a lot to think about, and to be honest, leaving the movie and having all these thoughts and wondering what I thought about the movie, I had to literally go and listen to other podcasts that are talking about this movie to kind of see like where where were other people at. And I guess I'm just in the minority where I think most people understood exactly what was happening, and I think I understand after listening to these podcasts where this movie was supposed to go, or where this movie went, and what ultimately the story was. I'm not saying I was confused. I was just, I don't know, maybe it's just some sort of shock, and just a lot of those WTF moments. A lot to think about. This movie is it's something that I think people need to experience. If you can go see this movie in theaters, go see it, because it's an adventure in a very uncomfortable, creepy, just leaves you with a lot of questions, but also just makes you feel dirty. It really does. And I think that's the whole point. I think that's what they were trying to do. Zach Kreger, the director, who is mostly known throughout his career for comedy. He directed, I think the only other film that he is really, really well known for directing is a movie back in like 2009 called Miss March, which was it was a comedy that he actually starred in with one of his writing partners. He wrote this movie, which is awesome. I'm loving the fact that we're seeing a lot of comedians and comedic actors really diving into the horror genre, because to be honest, I feel they're doing a great job with it. You look at Jordan Peele and what he has done, from Get Out to Us to now Nope, and like that track record. And I mean, that's a guy who started off in Mad TV and then, had Key and Peele and was, he was all based around comedy. And then to be able to come into the horror genre, it's crazy. I want to see more. And to be honest, I want to see what Zach Kreger does next. Cause like I said before, I didn't come out of this movie going, man, I didn't like that. I came out of this movie like, what did I watch? And I think that's the whole point. I really do. I really do. I don't know what else to say about this movie other than like, what the fuck? Like seriously, I don't know. I don't know, everybody. Maybe it's just my brain doesn't process a lot of this stuff as well as others. But yeah. It's terrifying if you think about it. Like, it really takes place in one location, which is creepy. A dark ass basement where I am right now. I'm in my dark ass basement recording this, so I'm constantly looking over to make sure there's nobody who's not supposed to be here just creeping up on me. It makes you think. I'm still, like I said, I came out of it. Yeah, I saw it yesterday afternoon, and I'm still thinking about it today. And I think that's the whole point. I don't want to keep repeating myself. I feel like I'm repeating myself on what my mindset on what this movie really did to me. Kind of fucked me up. Kind of fucked me up. But this movie was starred Georgina Campbell. She was in a couple episodes of, I think, an episode of Black Mirror. She was on a show on Sci-Fi. It was like a Superman origin story show called Krypton. She's been around, I guess, for a while. Just a little here and there roles, nothing that I really have can pinpoint other than that Krypton show. I did watch it, so I do recognize her from that. They got Pennywise himself, Bill Skarsgård, who was also a producer on this movie, which is pretty crazy. We had Justin Long, who is kind of a secret like horror. He's just popping up in these like horror movies throughout the years. Starting all the way back in 2001 with Jeepers Creepers. He was in Drag Me to Hell, which was an interesting one from Sam Raimi. He was in Tusk, which was that really creepy ass movie from Kevin Smith. And now he's in Barbarian. And yeah, we'll talk more about Justin Long and his character when we get to some spoilers. And Richard Brake shows up. And when you hire Richard Brake, you are hiring him to be a very creepy guy who makes you very uncomfortable every time you see him. That's about the gist of it. It was released September 9th on a $10.5 million budget. And as of right now, it's up to $22.8 million. It's made over its budget, which is good. And to be honest, I don't think they did a lot of marketing on this movie other than trailers. There really wasn't. This was a movie that you really didn't hear a lot about. Unless you went and saw movies that they were going to play the trailer for it, you really didn't know. I know it was shown back at San Diego Comic-Con back in July. It got some good reception there, but it was kind of put on the wayside where I don't think a lot of people were talking about it until the trailer started showing up a few weeks before the movie was actually set to drop. So I kind of went into this only seeing the trailer, just knowing who was in it, but really not understanding or getting anything to really go, oh, that's what this is about. Kind of getting, I hate when trailers show too much, when you went and like, you go and see the Black Phone and they show a 3.5 minute trailer for Nope. Like, we don't need that. Like, I think the trailer for this was less than a minute long and it showed the bare minimum and that was it. So you're kind of going in blind. I mean, if you didn't see the trailer, you literally don't know what the hell this is about. I think if you are a horror fan, you need to see this. This is probably the creepiest. This is probably my favorite horror movie of the year. Probably very close. Nope, I think edges it just a little bit. I think I like the nuance of Nope and everything that about Nope. Like I said, I think I like this movie. I think I do. I think I really like this movie. It's just creepy as it's just I feel like I have questions, but I don't know how to ask them. You know? And it's definitely a movie I need to rewatch. This and Malignant, I think I need those rewatches to kinda get a better understanding and a better appreciation of what these movies were trying to do. But do you know what? Even though I'm still in that mindset, I still think that this movie's creepy as hell. It really is. It's very creepy. It'll leave you very uncomfortable, dirty, just oh man. This was something. This was a horror movie. And we need more movies like this. We really do. And we need people to go out and see them in theaters. Seriously, it's kind of sad, you know. I know this movie came out almost 2 weeks ago. My theater was empty. It was me, my buddy, and my brother, and then two other people. And I was like, this is I mean, I get it. You're gonna get most of your crowd in those that first weekend or the first week that it's out, but man, people need to see these movies. People need to support movies like this in theaters because these are the movies that we need more of. You know, as much as the because we're being bogged down by the MCU, by these huge established franchises where those are just bogging down these original stories. And I'm sad. It's sad. This was you know, from what we saw from the trailer, it's about a woman who goes to an Airbnb and somebody else is there already. I guess it was double booked, and weird things happen in this house. And that's all you pretty much got from the trailer. A lot more happens. So strap into that. Um like I said before, all the performances fantastic. Georgina uh, Campbell is great. She's probably my favorite character throughout the movie. Bill Skarsgård is great as well, playing a character that you kind of had different, so many feelings about, and then it turns out most of those feelings weren't or aren't justified. You're just like, oh, okay, well that was a turn. And Justin Long is kind of a character I didn't expect him to play, just from based on a lot of the roles that he's done in the past. I just didn't. He did fantastic in the role, but yeah, he's a character that we'll get into more detail once we get into spoilers. And like I said before, Richard Brake's in this, and he's just always creepy. I don't think you can really have him play anything else. I don't like when you see actors being typecast, but like this guy's just perfectly created to be that creepy guy, you know? All right. Well, we're not going to do a plot breakdown. We're just going to talk about key parts. We're going to talk about some stuff that's going to be spoilers, be full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen Barbarian, I really, really recommend you go see it. If it's showing in your theater, go see it. It's worth a watch. And to be honest, if for horror, I think all horror fans are going to love this movie, and I can guarantee about most of the horror community has already seen it. I'm just kind of chugging along in the back. I'm in the caboose, you know. I get there sometime. So spoilers, everybody. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. You've been warned. So let's start off with the tone of this movie. So this movie really starts off very eerie, where Tess shows up at this house. It's an Airbnb. She goes and notices that someone's already there, and it's been double booked. And the other character is Keith. His name he's played by Bill Skarsgård, and he yeah. So they kind of hang out. She's trying to figure out what to do, and he kind of convinces her, you should just stay here. And it's one of those things where you get a lot of like real life situations. You get the social, you know, a lot of things that are going on today. Women have to be very, cautious with everything they do because, y- you know, they pretty much have to tiptoe around everything, and they have to be very cautious of of everything that's going on around them. As a man, not so much. That's kind of this whole thing. So she has her doubts, or she just kind of, she's testing the waters because she doesn't know this guy, and he goes from, being the, oh, this is a very shitty situation, to, all right, I want to get to know this woman. And it's kind of weird, and you kind of get a weird feeling from him. We're like, oh boy, is this going to be our antagonist in this movie? Is this the barbarian? Wherever you want to get the title from, it's it's for me, it's a little bit hard to decipher. I think I understand it, but yeah, she has her fences up, and she, you know ends up staying over, but she's very cautious until she finds out that this guy is part of a jazz group, or a music group that is associated with the job interview that she has. So she kind of, she kind of drops her guard, and hangs out with him, and they have a good time, and things are going in a certain direction. And you kind of get that thing. You kind of get that feeling like, oh, is this gonna be like a quick, relationship for these two, or like a quick one night stand type thing? But nothing happens, except for a creepy instance where she wakes up and he's freaking out and stuff, and you hear doors and stuff opening and shutting, and it's creepy as hell. Um, and you notice, like, at night it's pouring rain when she gets there. She can't see everything in the neighborhood, and he even mentions something about how the neighborhood is creepy and it's not a good neighborhood. Have you seen it type deal? So the next morning when she goes to her job interview, she notices the neighborhood is it's just a bunch of it's like the house, which is a beautiful little house, and then it's like abandoned houses everywhere. There's no other house that is like livable. So, and this all takes place in Detroit. Just figured I'd put that in there. Um, she has her job interview, and then of course she comes back, and this is when things really start to happen. Um, she gets she hears something in the basement. She gets locked in the basement. She discovers a creepy room, or a hallway in a room, where there's a video camera and a bed, and the bed is really nasty, and there's a bucket, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is a creepy ass situation, and I want to go. The thing about this movie that I noticed is that like, Georgina Campbell's character Tess, she is always just so willing to go help, and it's just like, I'm in this situation. I'm in a house I don't know. There's some creepy ass dungeons and tunnels and stuff. Like, I'm sorry. I gotta go find the authorities. I gotta go take care of this in a different way, instead of running towards the problem. And that's what she does. She's always running towards the problem. And the fact that she survives this movie is a miracle. It really is, because what she does, she just does a lot of things that I question, like, don't do that, but she does, and almost doesn't turn out well for her. So Keith comes back and gets her out of the basement, and she tells him about the room. And this is another thing that drives me nuts, because this happens in a lot of horror movies, or at least a lot of movies where you have someone who is going through a traumatic experience. They are telling somebody else about something, and they don't believe them, or they don't take it as seriously. Like, this woman is an adult. Doesn't matter. She's a woman. Who gives a shit? It shouldn't matter at all. But she experiences this traumatic situation. She's an adult. She needs to go. She tells him about the room, and he kind of just brushes it off, like, oh, well, a room with a video camera and a bed? That seems normal. It's not normal, man. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Keith? And then Keith goes downstairs and he disappears. And I'm just like, should have took her seriously. I don't know. What did you think was going to happen here? What did you think was going to happen? So, of course, what does she do? She goes down to check. on Keith. The whole there's a whole thing about the door. So she gets locked down in the basement because the basement door swings shut and it locks. And then the whole thing with him helping her out. She then goes through a couple situations where the door almost shuts and she keeps it open and then she props a chair on the door so it doesn't shut. I was like, okay, cool move, good smart move. But then she ventures down to the entranceway and she yells for him. He doesn't, or she calls him a couple few times. He doesn't answer. She goes to the tunnel and she yells for him, and then she's kind of physically freaking out. And that's when I would have turned around and I would have walked up the stairs and I would have called the cops, which you don't know how the cops are going to react in this movie until you encounter the cops. There are two cops that you encounter in this movie. And I think the reason they act the way they act, well, actually, there's might be a couple reasons. And it's explained, and it's something that she brings up too once she encounters them. I think one of the reasons they know what's going on in that house or like what's in that house. But you just turn around, you go up, you do what you can. All right, you got your phone, you're in this little pre-house. You know, you're clean. You call the cops, you explain everything, you show them everything, and which I know at one point she does call the cops, and they didn't have any units to go out there, and I'm just like this is Detroit, right? Like, did they not have a large police force for a city? I don't understand. But listen, I don't understand a lot of things. So instead, she ventures down, and then she finds a deeper tunnel, and she hears Keith in the distance yelling for help. Of course, she keeps pressing on. That's when I'm just like, you know what? I think it's time for me to go. But instead, she keeps venturing. I said I wasn't going to break down the plot, and I'm doing exactly what I said I wasn't going to do. So I'm sorry. This is just what I do on this show, and whatever. We're here. We're going to continue. So she finds him, and he says there's somebody else down there, and you're like, oh shit, here we go. We're going to see the creature, whatever the hell is down here, fucking with them and doing all this stuff. And then it pops out. And I physically jumped. Like, I think I jumped a little bit. I think I looked at my buddy and I just mouthed like, what the fuck? And I, I don't, I was like in like shock. I was like, what in the hell what is happening? This large, very large, woman comes out of the darkness, grabs onto Keith's head and just turns it into a smashed tomato. And it goes black, and you're like, well, Tess is dead. Exactly what I thought. But no, so it cuts to Justin Long's character, AJ. He's having a great old time in his little convertible driving by the beach in California, and he's singing a song. Don't know what the song is, but it was terrible. Never want to hear that song again. And he's having a great time. And then he gets a phone call, and he is being told that he is being accused by an actress for sexual assault. So we are now getting the Me Too and the Hollywood Weinstein-ish type situation, where he's going, we're seeing the perspective, the main point of view, of someone who is going through that, being accused. And it's kind of one of those things where he's being told, and I think the first thing that you think once he starts talking is like, oh, this guy sucks. This guy's a shitty person because all he's worrying about is the show. Which I understand, like, you put a lot of work into it, and you want it to succeed and you want to be a part of it, but also you should probably take it seriously that someone is accusing you of rape. And I feel he doesn't. So that's where you kind of get that picture, that first kind of inclination, that's the word, that he did it, that he is a shitty person and he did something bad. So, yeah. And you find out he has no money. but he has houses that he has houses he could sell to get money to, I guess, pay for the trial and all this stuff and whatever. He then goes, you find out that he owns houses in Michigan. You're like, oh, well, he must own the house that Tess and Keith were at. So, of course, that's why they're showing this character. He's very much a bro. He's very much like that typical, like we all had friends like this, or even some people might even still have friends like this. And if you do, like, yikes. Um, yeah, he's a dude bro who is just kind of, when somebody would look at this, be like, oh, this is a millennial. It's not, in a way. It's just the way that, the typical thing where, there's a point in this where he answers the phone and says the F word, and not the F word that I use quite often on the show, but the F word I can't say on the show because I won't, because it's not a good word. But he answers the phone to his friend and says it, and you're like, oh, this guy just sucks. And you get this whole scene where he's at a bar and he's talking with his friend, and his friend is like, it's one of those things like, yo, bro, just like, come on, man, tell me what happened. Did you do it? And like the way he's describing it to his friend about the whole situation, he did it. He raped her. But in his mind, it wasn't that, and he gets really drunk and ends up calling the woman that's accusing him, which the funny thing is there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that kind of don't go anywhere, like certain events that don't go anywhere. So like Tess gets her job interview, gets the job, but there's nothing left of that. There's no, because like the woman she interviews with, um, is just like finds out where she is. And she's like, oh, that's a terrible place. You shouldn't be there. But like, how many days has gone by? And like, wouldn't her boss be questioning, like, she wouldn't show up on her first day? Like, maybe we should figure. Nothing happens with that. Also, this whole thing, nothing happens with that because, of course, by the end of this movie, AJ, he's gone. He's done. But we'll get into the details of his demise, which is very enjoyable because he's a terrible person. So yeah, so you find out. So he goes to Michigan because he's going to sell his properties there, and this guy, it's one of those things where like he's a shitty person, but like the things that he does is like one of those things like, well, of course this guy would do something like that, and it's comedic, and it's one of those things where you're like, you laugh, but you're like, oh man, this guy really sucks. Why am I laughing? But like the things he's doing is ridiculous. So he finds out that the more square footage you have in a house, the more money it's worth. And so he takes a tape measure and he's just measuring everything. And then he finds the tunnel that has the room with the video camera. And then he finds the other tunnel and he's just measuring everything. And you're just like, would any would anyone do this? Or is this just this character who does this? I don't know. It's wild. It's just a wild thing. He and then of course he gets involved in everything. But you also get the situation where like he goes into the house and he sees Keith's and Tessa's stuff, and he's just like, what the fuck, man? Like he calls the property manager, asks what's going on, and he's a fucking piece of shit. So like she wants nothing to do with the guy, so she kind of hangs up. But like there's it talks about how like there hasn't been anybody in there for a couple weeks. There's like, is that how long Tessa's been gone? Or like, was there another play into this? It's crazy. But like he, notices the keys gone, and he notices like he finds Tessa's keys, he finds the backpacks, the bags and stuff like that. And so but yeah, but he measures the house and he goes downstairs, and that's when he runs into the mother, well, I don't want to say creature. She's not a creature. She is a inbred, superhuman, very naked woman. And her whole thing is that she takes these people and you become her baby, and so she takes care of you like a baby, and she's terrifying because she comes out of the shadows. The way that they shot this, a lot of the cinematography in this, and like the camera shots, and in the different like angles of like things being shot behind the actors instead of it being at certain angles. Like it's either behind, in front, or the sides. It's nothing too crazy, or above. Very, very well shot, especially in the tunnels, because a lot of this movie takes place down in these tunnels. So like everything is very linear, where you're just following the tunnel. There's no like angle where you're like, well, that's not realistic for what this is. It's like somebody's behind them, in front of them, or on the sides of them. But yeah, when they shoot her and she's in the shadows, or she comes to the shadows, and like the way she looks, it's like it's one of those like, holy, what the hell did I do? What is that? So this is the thing that I think was a little bit of a gripe for me. And I know a lot of people disagree with me, because I know a lot of people are just like, they don't need that much of an origin. It's not really an origin, it's just trying to understand. So we get a flashback scene of Richard Brake's character, my mistake. And his name is Frank. And this is back in I think the 80s. He is driving, he goes outside, and of course the neighborhood is beautiful. All the houses look great, and the neighborhood is popping. You have kids playing outside and all that fun stuff. And he goes to the store to get baby stuff, because you he says like his wife is having a baby. They're having the baby at home and all that stuff. The woman's very nice helping him. But then it gets really fucking weird, because he goes out to his car and then kind of spies on this woman and then follows her home. You're like, oh, okay. He pretends to be I guess an electrician, because he talks about how like the power's been flickering throughout the neighborhood. So, the woman lets him in. He unlocks a window to kind of give himself some easy access, so that later on in the day, he can take this woman, and I guess, do unspeakable things, because he gets home and he opens up, and you find out, this is the house, and he goes to the basement. There's a lot of screaming down there, and you're like, okay. But then it stops, and then it goes back to what we've been following the majority of this movie. I really wish we got some more. Maybe like the origin of like how she, like, so we only thing we get is from the homeless guy, and he explains how this is very weird, very fucked up. He would have a baby with the whatever woman he kidnapped, and then have children, and then have a baby with the child. Like, I don't, oh, it's like I don't want to know anymore, because it's really, really fucked up. But it's one of those things where it's just like, I want to know a little bit more about the mother, and like how, instead of it just being kind of a dump from the homeless guy that keeps yelling at Tess and warning her about being at the house. Like, I wish there was more. I just wish there was more. But yeah, back to AJ, he gets caught, he gets thrown in a cage, and we find out Tess is alive, and you're like, yay! I like this character. She's alive. And the mother comes with a bottle and tries to feed Justin Long. He's not about it, and it's really fucking gross. The imagery is like hair coming off the nipple. It's unsettling. He doesn't want to do it, and she gets mad, but Tess shows her, shows him what he needs to do. He still refuses, so the mother takes him. And instead, if he's not going to be feeding from the bottle, he's going to suck on them titties. And they nasty. They are nasty. This scene, this, like you knew this is exactly what they wanted you to feel. Uncomfortable. Oh my God. Just uncomfortable. I'm just like eating my Mike and Ike's, like, what the fuck is going on right now? I'm so and yeah, it's a very, very intense scene. Tess escapes. She gets rescued by the homeless guy outside. She kind of wanders the neighborhood to try to find somebody to talk to. She calls the cops, and then this is when the cops show up, and the cops are kind of just like, "Oh, this woman is clearly a crackhead, or there's something wrong with this woman. We're not going to take her too serious." She brings them back to the house, and still they don't really have time to deal with her, so they leave. Like they're just like, sorry. But also, like I said, I think they know what's in there and they just don't want to deal with it because they kind of have that weird dynamic, and then they kind of just drive away. And yeah, it kind of sucks. You're just like really bad. You're just like, come on, guys. Like seriously, like what? What? But I don't know, man. I don't want to say like I mean they do suck. The cops do suck in this movie. And but I feel like there's some other, they have knowledge that they wouldn't share. So the homeless guy pretty much is like, you need to like just leave, and she's like, oh, there's somebody in there, and it's like, oh no, see, Tess, this is your problem. You meet these people you've never met, and then you need to go save them. No, you don't. You could get the authorities and tell them about the house and just move on. Like I mean, Keith's already dead. You don't know who the fuck this dude is. Listen, that sounds terrible, but like, come on, and most people in this exact situation would do that. They would just leave. You go find somebody, you tell the authorities, like, hey, go to this house, look around, and then, yeah, I will be seeing you. Bye. So Tess goes back in. Well, actually, she finds out from the homeless guy that the mother comes out at night. And I don't know if I like this very much, this whole thing of her coming outside at night, but I guess that's mostly why the neighborhood is gone. Like nobody lives there. And 100% like no one sees her at night, but I guess yeah, I mean there's no one in this neighborhood and the cops probably never venture around these parts. So why would they ever see her? Um so yeah, she hits her with a car and you think she's dead. It's one of these many times where it's like, "Oh, she's dead," and then, "Oh, she's not." Um, AJ discovers Frank much older, of course. This is modern day. And you find out that he is a serial rapist. And yeah, he did a lot of fucking terrible, terrible things and he recorded them. And AJ kind of threatens him that, all the authorities are coming. And he's like, hey, and he doesn't speak a word throughout this entire scene. He takes out a gun. You think he's going to shoot at AJ, but instead he turns it on himself. It was kind of anticlimactic. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I kind of wish we got more, but I guess not. They Tess finds him and they escape, but Mother's gone. And they're like, oh, well, we got to go then. And they end up finding the homeless guy. They go to like where he's been living for the last 15 years. He says it. I've been here for 15 years and she's never came here. And as soon as he says it, what happens? She crashes through the fucking wall like the Kool-Aid man and snaps his goddamn neck. This part, I did not like this part because it's like, it was so generically stupid. Like, as soon as he's done, was she waiting out there, waiting for the fucking cue? Come on. Did not like that. Like, this was the part that annoyed me the most, was the fact that she just comes in like a flash after all this time. But like, I mean, I guess the only thing that would make sense is she was following AJ and Tess to that spot. That's how she found out about it, and then that's what happened. It's just, I just found it comical that it was like, just as he was like, yep, I've been here 15 years and she's never been here, and then boom, she crashes through, snaps his neck, and of course Tess and AJ run, and this is all pretty scary because this is like this entire you never see the mother in the light other than when she is in her room in the tunnel. And when she's trying to breastfeed AJ with the videotape that's teaching about breastfeeding. And but yeah, she chases Tess and AJ up a water tower And, AJ this whole time, he's trying to figure like, he's like, "I'm a good person. I just did a bad thing, and I know I can become a good person," and all that stuff. And you're like, "Okay, you still are a shitty person. I don't know if I can forgive you, you know, even though you're trying to make amends for yourself." But then he just adds another tally to his shittiness by sacrificing Tess to distract the mother into saving her. So, Tess gets dropped off the water tower, and then the monster jumps off in the most dramatic form where she swan dives off like, "Ah," and then it somehow catches her. And you're like, okay, the mother has to be dead, right? And AJ, of course, he goes down there expecting Tess to be dead. She's not dead. And "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." Of course, the mother's not dead. And she gets up and she shoves her fucking long ass thumbs into his eyeballs. And you're like, that's a nasty image because you get to see it all. And then she splits his head in half. And you're kind of like, all right, I don't really feel bad. You sucked. And you get to see you get a kind of it's one of these things where like you really you feel bad for the mother because like she didn't sign up for this. She didn't sign up to be inbred, a superhuman freak. Like what? She didn't sign up for any of that. She just wants to be a mom. This is not the best way of going about it. And she tries to be the mom to Tess. She's trying to say, like, "I want to go, let's go home." She's like, "I can't go home because I forgot to mention earlier, AJ shot Tess because he is an idiot." And yeah. And Tess shoots the mother, and that's it. That's it. I literally did exactly what I said I wasn't going to do earlier in the show. I was like, I'm not going to do a plot breakdown. I pretty much just did a plot breakdown. I do so many of these shows where I do plot breakdowns. It's just natural for me to do it. So I apologize to everybody. But I hope you all enjoyed this little fresh cut. We haven't done one in a while. Well, I haven't done one in a while. Hopefully Dan and Angela will be able to come back on a fresh cut sometime soon. We got a lot of things on the table coming up. We got Hocus Pocus 2. I know comes out next week, and I know Angela is going to want to talk about that. So we're probably going to do a fresh cut on that. And Hellraiser comes out October 7th on Hulu, and definitely want to do that as well because it's a lot easier for us to do fresh cuts stuff on streaming movies because going to the theater is difficult for us as a group. So expect to see a lot of fresh cuts on streaming movies, but I wanted to really talk. I saw this movie and I really wanted to talk about it, and I hope you all enjoy my little conversation. I hope if you got anything you want to explain to me, something I missed, something, you didn't agree with, make sure you leave them in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you listen to us on any podcast services that you can rate and leave us a review, that would be fantastic. Because the more we get, the more eyes or ears see our podcast, and hopefully we'll jump on that wagon. But yeah, do I recommend this movie? I do. It's a good movie. I'm going to say it, as much as I'm still kind of in that like kind of fog where I'm still thinking a lot about this, kind of talking through this movie. I liked this. I thought it was good, and I just need to watch it again to kind of get like, I need to go into it already knowing what to expect so I can kind of take in more and see if I can pick more things out, because I'm just not the most observant person in the world. And I know it's like, well, you run a podcast where you probably should be. And it's like, I know, but sometimes my brain doesn't work like that. But before this gets way too long, thank you all for all the support. Hopefully you enjoy this little fresh cut from me. And make sure to check out our episode on Friday, our podcast episode, where we talk about Jurassic World Dominion. And it's very long. All right. I'm just warning you. It's a very, very long episode. I'm editing it right now, and we're at like almost 3 hours long. So I'm warning everybody now. All right, everybody. Until next time, I'm Brett Parker. This has been Dissected Full of Fresh Cuts, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.